Thank you for joining this video interview. We're going to talk about combining sustainability and ESGs with policies today. And I'm Helena, and I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for ExpatRide. And we recently released our white paper 2.0 that was titled The Global HR Green Opportunity, Using Global Mobility to Drive Environmental Change. And this paper delves into the global mobility industry and how the industry has a unique opportunity to turn relocation into a driver for sustainability. And one of the experts we draw upon in this white paper is you, Dennis.
Thank you.
So would you mind briefly introducing yourself, and then we can get on with the questions?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Elena. Name Dennis Michels, founder of Mobility Mastery. I believe in a holistic view of international mobility, which means that you look at from strategic angle and you can do a lot of things with policies and other the full relocation cycle by just focusing on your goals. Now, that's actually me. And I have in-house experience, consultancy experience. So ask me the questions you want and let's see if I can answer them.
Amazing. So the first one I want to talk about is, do you think that sustainability and ESGs has reshaped the current corporate mobility policies? And if so, in what regard?
Sure. I have seen that ESG goals have become a big part of the global mobility programs lately. It's not just about moving people anymore, but I think it's about doing it responsibly. So companies are focusing on things like cutting CO2 emissions, they are offering green housing options and reducing waste during relocations. So we moved on actually from transactional, just get it done, to a strategic, let's do it sustainably approach. That's how I call it. And I think it's a wonderful, great development. So if I see that pre-relocation planning now includes also green options like public transport, electric rental cars, energy efficient temporary accommodations, etc. I believe this is really a good development. So that's great. And let me give a real example. A company I recently started working with asked me how to embed ESG into their program. And they used to provide their employees with a lump sum relocation allowance. And as this was helping their ESG goals actually, so therefore they called me and they said, how can we change this, Dennis? Now, so in the end, we came up with a different angle. We changed the pre-approved packages, or we have changed it, from lump sum packages to pre-approved packages, where we included green housing, rental furniture options, and low emission. And this gave the company a better control of emissions and helped them meet their ESG goals. So that's one of the examples I have for you.
Amazing. Yeah, because lump sum seems to be actually contributing to the CO2s, the company's CO2 emissions instead of actually helping on.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. You're right. Yeah.
So have you noticed any innovative policies in the global mobilities industry in the past 2 years, let's say?
Well, there's a lot going on. The mobility world is upside down, if you ask me. Things are changing so rapidly. So yes, there have been some really interesting shifts going on. One is, let's say, on the sustainability side. I see companies bringing those conversations into process much earlier, which is good. So instead of treating sustainability as an afterthought, they are offering green options right at the start of the relocation. That's always better. It's better to start from the beginning than afterwards. So you look at the root cause of things and not to do some symptom treatment. And I see that companies using data tools now, like Power BI dashboards, to track CO2 savings and measure the impact of their program. So that's really cool. And speaking of innovative trends, something interesting I've learned is that Google had a goal to reduce the carbon footprint from their commuters. So they came up with the idea to offer in areas where, with the right infrastructure, of course, with hybrid and electric vehicles for commuters through a car sharing program. And that was something fascinating to see, that they could, such giant big company, to accomplish such program, and that even the employees are so happy with this, that's amazing. So that one simple shift has significantly reduced their emissions, which is always awesome. And especially in front runner like Google is doing this, you see that a lot of other companies are following. And if you look at trends outside of sustainability, in policy trends, I see one of the biggest trends is adaptability, flexibility. And that means that more companies are moving away from traditional long-term assignments, the classical expats. That's what I see, and looking for alternative setups. Local plus moves, commuter assignments, or even, I think, remote solutions. That's really key. So it's all about adapting to how employees want to work today, while still maintaining the structure and compliance that the company need. So that's why I'm currently seeing now.
Interesting. And also, you mentioned this, that starting from the very beginning, I think that speaks very much to this holistic view of assignments instead of just focusing on the move itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you also describe that some of the key role that policies play in achieving sustainability in the global mobility industry?
Yeah, I'm laughing a bit because a lot of people ask me that same question, and not really in sustainability, but just about policies. And I always say, why do policy matter? That's the first thing. And I say, I strongly believe that policies are the backbone of any successful company strategy, right? So they create structure, consistency, they drive consistency, they ensure the goals translate into action. So without them, it's just talk. Now, people like to talk, but we like action, right? So I said, embedding ESG goals in the global mobility policy, sustainability is going to become part in everyday decision making. And that's really the listeners should watch here, should be aware of. If you embed this in a right way in your mobility policy, it's becoming part of your everyday decision making. So by standardizing these practices, companies can ensure for sure that their sustainability commitments are more than just words. They become part of their operational framework. And this is so very important to understand. Now, and for instance, in a practice example, I've just added to a global mobility policy that all relocating employees required to live in an energy efficient house, for instance. That's why I just added in one of the policies. And I could tell you that one single change in the policy, because it is becoming part of the everyday decision making, will have a big impact on the cutting the company's carbon footprint and keep aligned with the ESG goals. So you see that you can make the difference as a leader, but as a company, just to write things down and just put it in a policy in a right way.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then it's in writing and then you have to follow up. But
you need to also to watch out. You need to monitor, because there are a lot of companies with policies and still they don't stick to that policy. So
yes,
you also need to have a lot of people around it to protect that it will be executed in a way, not get too much of exceptions, etc. But you're absolutely right. It starts with writing it down, get things into action, and then you need to follow up.
Makes sense as well. But what are some of the common gaps then if you design sustainability policies in mobility programs?
I think one of the biggest gaps I see is policies that are either too vague or too difficult for employees to follow. If sustainability guidelines aren't clear, I see they often get ignored. That's what it is, right? So hey, why are you doing? Okay, skip that part. And then they go further. So they are not following up on that one. So make goals as clear as possible and don't allow exceptions, which could cause precedents. Because that's also something I see if you get exceptions, one will point to the other. Why is this person getting this, and why I'm not getting this? You get an hairball of situation. So don't do that. So please make it as clear as possible, and don't allow exceptions that could cause precedents. And another common gap I see is that policies are designed from an employee DIYs. Do you know what it means? Do it yourself.
Yes.
And that's very tricky. So from a DIYs angle, like the lump sum relocation allowance, that's one of them. So when employees are giving a lump sum to cover their move, there's no built-in incentive to go green, right? So what they do? Yeah, just go for convenience, low costs, and not looking at sustainability at all. So it happens that companies don't fully integrate sustainability into their strategy, or assume employees will naturally make environmental friendly choices on their own. So, but without clear direction, that's what it's all about, like mandating policy. Most people just go with whatever is easiest. So the company, I mentioned in my last example, my first example, sorry, which was at the beginning, they relied on lump sum, right? And they realized that employees often choosing high emission travel, housing options, because there was no built-in incentive, right? So we addressed this. We redesigned the policy, what I mentioned already, switched to pre-approved relocation packages, including the green housing, low travel, emission travel, everything better, but it changes the direction and makes it easier for employees to make that sustainable choice. So it had a big impact on the company's overall footprint. So in that end, mission accomplished. So we were happy.
Yeah, it appears that the easier choice is often the choice they're going to take. And then if the easy choice is a sustainable choice, it might possibly be that one that assignees will choose.
Absolutely.
Can you also share an example where there was an effective policy implementation that made a significant impact on the ESG goals? You already mentioned a bit with this with Google, but do you have any other good examples?
Absolutely. 100%. I have one. ABN AMRO Bank. I don't know if you know that company. It's a Dutch company. I previously worked for them, and they introduced a train over plane program. It's absolutely amazing, and it's for commuters and business travelers, encouraging them to travel by train instead of the short haul flights for short distance trips. Think about Netherlands, UK. You saw a lot of bankers flying between UK and Netherlands, and they were flying, but there's also a train connection, right? So why didn't they choose that one? Now, because ABN AMRO Bank had that train over plane program, they said, you need now to go by train. And first there was a bit of resistance, of course, from employees. It takes me more time, blah, 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 blah. Now, in the end, instead of letting them dealing with airport hassles, because that's what it was improving their experience, and that was also how they presented it. And they were like, airport hassles? What do you mean? Now, security checks, delays, long boarding times. I don't need to tell you more about flying. Traveling costs time, and they enjoyed now in the train more comfortable journey because it's a fast train, so it's really easy. So in the end, the employee experience was that high, and they cut their transport emission by 60%. Wow, that's really impressive. Really an achievement, right? So, and after ABN AMRO, of course, there were more companies following that approach, like Swiss Re and Steelcase, and I can call out a number of names. But this is so cool. That's like Google. They made a sample, especially on travel, the commuters. Now, the same here with ABN AMRO. And I'm so excited about this initiative because if you integrate corporate travel with mobility sustainability commitments, then you get a huge volume of people. Instead of the program itself, you expand it by corporate travel. Then it makes ESG goals more than just a statement. You're really, because it really becomes a real part of everyday's business operations, because you have then covered the business travelers and you cover the global mobility relocators, like the long term, the short term, the different population, let's say it like that. Now, and therefore I'm so excited about it. And yeah, ABN AMRO is doing a good thing, and more companies are doing it. So it's absolutely amazing.
Really interesting, and also how it actually helped on employee happiness.
Yeah, that's also a good advantage, right? That's the
Really
plus.
good bonus. Yes. But how do you actually ensure that these policies are actionable and not just theoretical documents, as you also mentioned earlier, that sometimes it just becomes a policy that nobody really looks at?
No, and then there's a lot of dust on this policy, and okay, they are not never going to use it. If they put it in the closet, nothing happens. So you need to execute. Now, the key, making policies practical and easy to follow, right? That's the first thing. I'm like, are you going to do this? Yes or no? And if they say it's not practical, it's really theoretical, then it's not easy to follow. Now, so if the policy is too complex or it's vague, it will never become effective. Never. So employees need clear guidance on what's expected. That's the first thing what I would say in a policy. Which housing options to choose, what kind of transport they can take, etc. To make it really easy to make the right decisions. That's what an employee should see. They should not like what's here. It should be very clear. Now, and it's also important that to support the employees along the way. So that means that it is also mentioned in the white paper, and we have mentioned it before, that training is key. The tools and resources, they help them understand and apply the policies in real situations. So that's really key, the training. And actually that's actually it, I think, to ensure that policies are actionable.
That really also shows how it's actually the HR department in the global mobility industry that really has a big push factor and can make the global mobility industry even stronger player in sustainability and reaching the ESG goals.
Absolutely.
So if we can finish just on the last question, what advice would you give to HR leaders to strengthen their policy framework for sustainability?
That's a really nice question. Let me think about it. Now, my biggest piece of advice, I think, is to keep it simple and practical, what I just mentioned. Make it not complex. So too often sustainability policy sounds great on paper, but don't translate anything into real action. You think, what's happening here? So to make them work, HR leaders should focus, I think, on a few key steps. They should start with an audit. That's one. Take a close look at your current policy and identify where the gaps are. Are employees struggling to make sustainable choices? Yes or no? Now, that's where you start your audit. Make sustainable options the easiest choice. That's the second one. So the simpler you make it, the more likely employees are to follow it through. That's one. So pre-approved for greenhousing or guidelines, low emission travel, everything what I mentioned before. So that's really make easy choices, options. They need to plan early. The sooner the better. So you start to discuss sustainability as soon as a relocation is approved, because of course there are also non-sustainable options like rental furniture or just moving my full household goods. That could be an option. Now, that kind of you need to have discussions already with your employees about it before they move. Now, and they should never leave it as an afterthought. That's the third one. 4, choose the right team. You need to work with providers as company and RMCs that aligns with your sustainability goals, and they should provide with data to track progress, right? That's also what they need to do. So you need to ask them, what are your sustainability goals? What are you doing to support me with your ESG goals? That kind of questions you can ask. So choose your right team. That's always why I say it is one team. You as mobility department and the providers is just one team. So you need to act collectively. That's the next one. Now, and the 5th, engage employees, train them. That's just what I told you. Just train them, show them the impact of the choices they have, and most importantly, make them part of the solution. In my opinion, I think if you look from policy and sustainability and embed it in the policy, I think the key takeaway of this all is that great policies make sustainability simple and effective, And they don't just help companies meet ESG goals, they help companies build a better reputation, attract top talent, and create a real lasting impact on the world. And that's actually what I wanted to say about this. And if you have more questions, tell me. Because you said it was the last one. So I'm now wrapping up a bit. Sorry for that.
No, all good. I think we could talk a lot about this. And I also think if anyone is really interested, they should go and read the white paper where you delve much more into this about how sustainability and ESG are can be shaped through policies. So thank you so much, Dennis, for sharing all your valuable insights and your experiences.
Thank you, Elena.
I think we learned a lot about how we can connect policies and sustainability. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Elena, for inviting me for this interview. And you know where to find me. So if you have something to know, something to know, call me or you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.